So how many people here are here for the first time? All right. So you get to hear the story of why in the world we call it lampshades. And we were just joking a while ago, we should maybe come next time wearing lampshades on our heads. So illustrious poet David Celone started this whole thing up in Lyme or somewhere. And then we end up in a shop around the corner that sold lampshades. And we were there for quite a while. And so we called ourselves the Lampshade Poets. And even though we've moved down the street and ended up here, we're still the Lampshade Poets. So welcome, Lampshade Poets. All right. I'm thinking you could read 3 poems and then we'd move on, or you could read 2 and move on, and then you could come back and read another one, whatever you decide you want to do. So I welcome Bob Powell to be the very first victim.
So I'm Bob Powell. Nice to see everybody. So I'll just read 2. They're long enough. I'll read 2. This is called, the first one's called Documentary on Elephants. Documentary on elephants. Say again? And thank you for all for Jam for hosting and being here and doing all you guys do, and so professionally too. And I watched myself the first time on this thing. I said, "Wow, I'll have to dress up better next time." You guys really can see it. You can see everything, right? So that's great. Thank you so much. That's great. Well, I think I'm going to have to hold it anyway because I can't read that well far away from me. Documentary on elephants. Can everybody hear me? It's clear? Okay. Elephants mourn their dead, it is reported here. Their ponderous inertia does resemble grief. A cow mother stays with her calf, probing it with her trunk, hind foots, what the hyenas left. The herd is in sight, and one other comes and moves toward them, gently probes the cow, then the dead calf's remains, rubs with her side the cow's. The herd waits for them. I don't know how long before they move on. I understand a cow might carry a dead calf for days, even weeks. Here, what would she carry? Lying on the ground, perhaps, Here, what would she carry? Also on the program, I see an elephant herd come upon the bones of a dead matriarch. I'm told they bury, but the bones were there, lying on the ground, perhaps dug up carrion, or retrieved by them after some fixed period. They circle and face out, raising their trunks, look before turning to turn the crenellated skull, mandible, one tooth, knuckles of vertebra, with prehensile trunks, facet round and round, as by a jeweler's fingers, with no need for a glass. They take their time at this. They made a special trip, I am told, to this place, return at intervals. Ponderous inertia, I called it. What stays after the world moves on? Have you seen the stones left behind on graves, now 4 feet deep, grass sealed by opposable thumbs? They say to remember, but also show photos, a scarf that someone wore, a lighter etched with a whale that will not flame, watches with sweat-stained leather bands, a mother's breadboard, earrings, bracelets, lockets, none of them worth a damn. Old letters, old poems, reverie. Some disperse what's left, some fix a place, graveside memorials. They keep saints' relics, bones, for still another purpose. Stones, I think, do more, act like a counterweight, and over time displace, overcome the inertia, holding the grieved, captives Stockholmed, ambivalent, tortured as comforted, inside, outside of time, enclosed as by a door, variably heavy. With luck, the counter needs only the weight of one average size grown human, not infrequently less, although in some, make sure I have the last page, I'm sorry. That. With luck, the counter needs only the weight of one average-sized grown human, not infrequently less, although in some it's more. It can accumulate like sums in increments or log scale upwards to an adult bull elephant's, or twice or thrice. Worse, the loss of an infant, a child, a self, a soul, than lifetimes of stones, the strongest arms, a trunk, a bachelor herd, often might not raise it, against appearances of moving on. Empty hands here mean nothing more than trunks that are empty. And this is a lighter poem called Stress Echocardiogram. So there's a report in here, so I'm going to indicate the report with some quotation marks. Hopefully I'll be a little more facile, a little more dexterous this time with the paper and get through it here. Stress echocardiogram. My exercise tolerance is excellent, it says. He achieved 18 Mets. 16 is average for racers on the Tour de France. Of course, my race lasted only 20 minutes. There was a minimum of malignant beats, which I know is good, but one bad beat feels too many for this clock, which, unlike Big Ben, cannot be shut down for 2 years, awaiting funds for Parliament for repairs, or its dark face silenced to protect London from German Zeppelins. It's not like an atomic clock either, which is really made up of lots of clocks, too many to think about. A little bit like if all the hearts in the world ran parallel as one great heart. So it wouldn't matter if one were a little off, having a bad day, or in need of a break from all that beat after beat. Still, given time, atomic clocks need recalibrating too, even ones using winged mercury, like the space program. But here it is calcium which is of concern, mild deposits in the ascending aorta, like spleniothems in a cave without bats yet, or the crud in my coffee pot, or the buildup in my shower drain that causes the water to stay right where it is, covering my bare feet, which is not unlike the mild aortic, mitral, and pulmonary regurgitation. And the report is nonchalant, self-evident even. It would even have been much cheaper to just look in the mirror in good light, one might think. After all, I once had auburn hair thick with curls, a face my mother called Shanapunan. Why am I so taken aback? Still, it is an excellent report for my age, free of any functional coronary disease. And what did I expect to see? Tom Cruise dancing in his underpants? Thank you, everybody. Good night.
So slots number 2 and 3 are empty, so I'll take one of them. And I'll read a couple, start off. This is called Forgiveness. There he was, is, again and again. That little tawny FAO Schwartz squirrel was his adorable felt button eyes staring me down through my window, marauding the feeders, greedy, hungry, ignoring my will and my purpose to joy in birds and birds alone, with their more modest appetites, their cheerful, polite gratitude for food. But the fearless chap made an insolent misstep, climbing inside the seed basket for a heartier feast. And clap, I slammed down the lid and carried him off, far up the hilltop, along dirt roads and into the forests, away from homesteads and feeders and farms. Uttering not a sound from the back seat floor, the poor creature lay atop a mound of seeds in the prison of his once familiar dining hall. As I opened his jail and watched him scamper off, instead of triumph and glee at my successful maneuver, instead of shouting, "Goodbye, forever, good speed, farewell," I climbed faint-hearted into my car and hoped as he clambered up a tree that once he knew his new surroundings, I, cruel being, would one day be forgiven. And in another kind of jail, this is called Ravages. So, Vlad, holy Russian emperor, stop it, stop it, stop it. To the west of your mighty land, and you already have plenty, is a beautiful place along the Dnieper River. An ancient city, Byzantine, Gothic, neoclassic, cathedrals with ancient bell towers, fancy tall hotels, many homes, bustling with life, vendors, workers, babies, moms, dads, grandparents, families with ties to your own. But with your selfish lust, your manic mania for power, you're sending your own unwilling boys, all your men, and even convicts to destroy an established metropolis, leaving just rubble and heaps of death in a place that you want to own. What for? Wipe that eternal smirk off your face and wonder, what the bloody hell am I doing?
I was here earlier doing the sound check, so I know this works. When someone starts a war, love and honor both at risk, inside a fisted glove, huddled in the underground as bombs explode above, shielding children from the blast, moving elders fast, able-bodied signed up quick so they could join the cast. Do whatever must be done to guard what some adore. Everybody loses when someone starts a war. Humanity is set aside in world under attack. The primal answer's threat with hate, somehow we lost track. Reduced to desperation, like some frightened beast, with moral compass missing, we're guided by our least. The lost among the living no longer can implore. Everybody loses when someone starts a war. We shoot at better angels to drop them from the sky, as if some solemn duty never stopped to wonder why. Reading blessed lessons from a sacred scripture book with weapons cleverly disguised beneath our holy look. Cast your light upon the fight as we work to restore. Everybody loses when someone starts a war. Driving out darkness, a delicate art. Guided by grace, may each play a part. No peace in the home without peace in the heart. No peace at the end without peace at the start. In the dead of night, the battle rages deep within the mind. Truce might say it's over, but that's not what they find. When the fight is finally finished, as make-believe pretends, victor turns to victim. The violence never ends. The damage done is hidden well behind the darkest door. Everybody loses when someone starts a war. The Prince of Peace reminds us to turn the other cheek as we await salvation in times that look so bleak. Please believe the way of love shall soon rise up again. Forgiveness lifts our spirits in this life from now till then. Innocents will ask us, what was all that for? Everybody loses when someone starts a war. I wrote that 1 month into the Ukraine conflict. Seems like a long time ago. I'm going to read one more. This one's called On Common Ground. This has some current relevance. Please meet me in the middle. We'll raise hope on common ground. The world we build together will help our loss be found. Hand in hand, we'll share the burdens to lift the weight we feel. We can move those mountains and work as one to reach a deal. I am only one of many, as you can clearly see. The strength of this great nation is our democracy. Each person plays a vital role to preserve our liberty. The truth is clear. I need you as much as you need me. Join with me to honor the best of what has been. Dedicate the work we do to fix this mess we're in. Put our best thoughts together, some of yours and some of mine. Side by side, we'll give and take. Everything will work out fine. I am only one of many, as you can clearly see. The strength of this great nation is our democracy. Each person plays a vital role to preserve our liberty. The truth is clear. I need you as much as you need me. In each there is a longing to be one with all that's good. May we resolve the distance to make mystery understood. Humanize opponents. We can mend our broken ways. Kind words we speak may heal our wounds. Prepare for better days. Thank you.
These are a little different. So, this first one is called The Heron. I saw the heron today, early, not stepping on rocks, weedy moss, water iris. The appearance with a reappearance on my dock. It made no sense. The narrow stream of feathers, almost but not quite proclaiming its being. It stood where there was no safety, no solace, no future. In response to my breath tones, it flew away. Years ago, during an inside in mind time, I resolved that seeing a heron just once every summer would carry me through the exhaustion of autumn and the distant winter, until I was back where generations found simplicity in swimming, nourishment in eating outdoors, reflection in glassy mornings on a mirrored night. It has been 2 years since the heron returned to my lake. 2 years of doubt that a glimpse on another pond or of one lifted in flight was pretense enough to sustain this my sincerity of hope. Perhaps it had come to say, he'll soften, he'll see you. Perhaps to make me patient for hours and days. Or perhaps to show that to land on harsh edges, to open wings, expand, stretch, and glide, is knowing of grace to be found. Or perhaps it was just a vision, something I bled to conjure from the clouds and black branches. Perhaps I wished too hard for the elegance of hope, to be available without the sweat of hot days, able to settle inside a sunset, imagined as part of every day when windows and doors keep out the chill, and then rising again just before dawn. I think today brought the best of the heron, arriving without fanfare, when no one expected, when a fragile encounter captures your breath and holds it gently, allowing you to breathe out, and then for a while to breathe in more deeply. So that's my ode to nature. I know that there's differences of opinion on whether you explain a poem before you read it. But because I found the information that went into this so powerful, I just want to mention that there's this thing called PTSD, which is post-traumatic stress growth. And it's being very carefully studied. It actually shows changes in how our brains work, just like PTSD does that. So we all have moments when we need to know that. So this is what I wrote. Once there were 4 seasons: grasses, bird calls, air temperature, now barely change. Water that has frozen may never melt. The moon does not control the tides, nor the sun escape cancerous clouds. The calendar with next year's photos, the busy bus schedule printed in green, our clock's weights stretched to the floor, are unwound, thrown out, or already out of date. Conversations from magazines echo on my phone. Confessions, discussions, negotiations are distilled as listless topics and then consumed as headlines, a 3-note refrain. After weeks of my waiting, wanting, weathering, a spirit offers choice. The pause is elastic and collects in the seams of my aching. Accidental images, unforced language appear. Survival fragments stick together from dampness, and a collage begins to shape the outlines of change. Dialogues with silent friends replace sound bites. Textbooks are balanced by 6-line poems. A string duet receives a full orchestra, and rote prayer becomes meditation. The layer under neurons reorganizes as muscle and sinew and scar tissue. My voice, an octave lower, can be silent. I lift my fingers to take my pulse, wipe rain from my breast, and make a fist. Thank you.
I was thinking with not so much the last uplifting poems, but the earlier ones that somebody said gloom, but stuff we have to face, yeah? And I'm choosing first to read a poem about my grandfather, Joe Baker, back in England where I grew up. It'll become clear when it's set, and etc. Joe Baker. His wife and children, mostly grown, worked around the rocking of his favorite chair. His words were few enough, but always clear. Requests for a fresh tea or comments on the radio news. But here was war again, and 20 years had barely passed. The shipyard and the steelworks drew them in most nights, the buzzing, droning planes dropping bomb after bomb, that high-pitched squealing, shattering the houses and the shops, leaving the railway station just down the street. No milk to be had, and scarcely any bread. Joe Baker rocked and puffed his pipe. The air raid sirens wailed again tonight, and Annie scurried round to gather a few things into a bag, load her arms with a coat and a blanket, tie a warm scarf round her head. Come on, Joe, stir yourself. Here's your cap. Put on this warm jersey. Come on, Joe, I've got your coat. Joe rocked. His face was still, his lips just gently pulling on his pipe. He didn't look at Annie. He didn't stir. Come on, Joe, come on, come on. You can't just sit there. We've barely time to reach the shelter steps. And in the end, they left him there, rocking gently, rocking, determined that this war would not dictate his life, that come what may, this war would not bend him to its will, that he would never again scurry like a rat into a bomb shelter hole, no matter how his wife and family wailed, that the war would not fill him with fear and frenzy, make him crouch in a piss-reeking hole with whimpering children, cowering neighbors, wetting themselves in fright as the bomb screeched overhead. The all-clear siren wailing. Families straggled up the shelter steps, up into the cold night air, floating with heavy dust. Looking to left and right, they gasped at the flattened houses, the street filled with cursing and weeping, neighbors running in all directions. Annie's eyes pierced the dusty dark, scared to hope, unwilling to believe what she might see. Though the row was leveled to either side, her number 28 still stood. A wither of smoke like a mist reached up its chimney to the sky. Joe Baker rocked inside. His pipe was barely lit, a tiny coal glowing in the dark. He sucked on it still. Plaster dust filled his hair, covered his jacket, his trouser thighs. His eyes smiled at Annie as she came in the broken door. "It's all right, Annie. Don't you fret." Yeah, true story. Yeah, Grandpa. He had done the First World War. Yeah, yes. I was in the National Guard for that, and this was so soon after the second. Yeah. If you don't mind, I'll stay with the gloom, but a different gloom. In a way. There are 3 parts to this poem. Them is the title of the poem. 1, border. No shoes, just bleeding feet, rock scarred in the dust. No stars tonight, just clouds, a milky darkness. Rock scarred in the dust, one step, then the next. Just clouds, a milky darkness, 100 figures moving. One step, then the next. Shoulders stooped with burden, 100 figures moving. Fathers, mothers, children. Shoulders stooped with burden, bundled infants, water. Fathers, mothers, children. Coyotes trot alongside. Bundled infants, water. No stars tonight. Coyotes trot alongside. No shoes, just bleeding feet. 2. Invasion. Let them eat cake, she said, her white-gloved hands preening, her nose raised, her eyebrows. Theirs is the hand they were dealt, so be it. Don't trouble me now, I have days to fill with pleasures. Bring me my succulents. And was it not ever thus? Put their children in cages, the silly fools for coming. Let them eat flies. A pound of flies contains more protein than a pound of beef. Three. This I pray, that these skinny mules will keep their pace, at least till dusk, swallowing up these kilometers unchallenged, that my mother's licorice eyes will never again be stung by these poisoned sands. that we will lift our heads and open our mouths to rain, that my children will know oranges, peaches, grapes, that my loom will be unbroken, and once more I will shuttle the heavy wool from my own sheep, felt it densely, and keep my children dry, that I will dip my hands deep in flour, once again forming the loaves of life. Thank you.
Be a problem, but can everyone just hear me at this level?
Quick talking into the mic lesson. If you make like this is like a good distance from the mic, from this mic. You like your fist pretty much away from the mic. Yeah. Yeah.
I'll stand here. Thank you. Okay. Let's go to the beach. This is called Where I Stand. At long last, the ocean again. Whoopsie. It feels kind of odd. All right. And where do I put the book? Okay. Where I Stand. At long last, the ocean again, after a parading march of seasons without. Taurus, earth sign, landlubber, grounded on shore, looking out at the vast while digging toes in. I'm fed by the waves' sound, their reach, their power. The way white clouds hang above, looking like gulls frozen in flight, as the gulls themselves soar and swoop, rush and recede, lulls in an endless loop. Children play, surfers surf, sun worshippers lay with faces turned to warmth like morning glory blossoms in early day. The fabric of sounds, rhythmic and lush, forms a background intricate yet whole, coherent, a Foley artist's craftwork, sounds and visual in concert, telling a story of this magical liminal space where water meets land and they dance and dance and dance. Surf and sand laced and ruffled with seaweed and breezes, a dynamic of seen and unseen, hints of a grand scheme. Light glints on surfaces in relation, in motion, rolling swells, smooth shells, sparkling shore, softening, receiving the imprint where I stand. Morning walk. Lacy seaweed, green on the tan shore, making rows of curves, fringing the water like a scalloped lampshade's edge. Sparkling shells, the moon shimmers, translucent discs, some name toenails, sprinkle shoreline and shoreline sand where the tide has pushed them, mapping out their own glittering galaxy, later to be crisscrossed by footprints of beachcombers and gulls. Where the waves ride the sandbar, they are line after line of charging white horses, engaged in battle, kicking dust at their feet. Shall I join them? And I'll just pick a random other one. It's called Let Me Let Go Enough. Slate Gray River, I saw you shining last night. Don't know if it was comet or satellite, but something hovered above you, beaming bright. Your ripples were alive with conversation. What is it you and the stars discussed while I lurked at our windows, binoculars in hand, trying to read the mystery as sleep evaded me, in those hours when all is quiet, when most are asleep, dreaming. Seeking ease of mind, I take to peeping, the night sky so full of wonder, permitting escape, expansion, release from narrow parameters. The riparian zone is far-reaching, as is the celestial one. There are really no borders where we try to place them, wanting to impose order that suits our desire for conquest. My zone extends beyond the container of skin and bones I call body. If I liquefy into ripples like a river, I can flow, I can fly. Last night, I traveled to the stars, searching for peace. Treading water in the glittering swells, let me let go enough to float into dawn.
I'll be a three-legged stool. Thanks so much. Must say this is the first time I've been here, and I'm humbled. These poems are absolutely wonderful, and puts me in my place. This is called Travel. Travel. Can you hear me? Might not hurt to have glasses on. Remember the days when all we had to worry about was whether our luggage was overweight, or whether we were at the right gate, or whether the plane was late. Remember the days when a sneeze was a breeze and not an encounter with fate? Remember the days when to hug a friend was not the sorry end, but the start of a carefree date? Before our world was turned upside down. Quarantine, another vaccine. More is less and less is more. Down is up and up is down. Will we ever get out of town? The days are long, the weeks grow longer, and we must try to all get through stronger. Mankind's seen worse, but not by much. Oh, how I long for life's gentler touch. Take a break, try to escape. Your guess is as good as mine. Maybe it will all be fine. I'll sit here and watch the snow. Too risky to be on the go. Don't complain, got lots of food. Anyway, won't do any good. Nothing is forever, or so they say. Hope is all we got for a better day.
Punch it. Closer, I think. I'm going to read a couple of poems from the only book I've ever had actually published, as opposed to me having it printed at Ginkgo's. Not Ginkgo's, whatever that is. And this is a chapbook that started in my head about 3 or 4 years ago, as I realized I was saying little sayings that I heard my mother say repeatedly as I was growing up. And eventually I thought, there are a lot of these. I wonder if I could just write a poem around each of them. And I got started on that, and that's what I did. And then I decided that since in my writing career, rejection has been the norm, that I wouldn't send it anywhere. But then a small press in Minnesota that just does chapbooks said they have an open reading session. And really what I did was I did it to get my wife off my back because she kept telling me to do something with it. And I thought, well, I can say I did something. And lo and behold, they thought it was good enough to publish. So tonight I will read a couple of poems from this, and it's called The Things She Said. And if I can, my plan was to read all of them. You know, I was very excited when it came, but I realized that would probably not be fitting. So I'll read a couple from this. And I'll read the first one just because it is the first one in the book. And this is called The Good Lord. We lived in Texas in the 50s, and our family was tightly tied to our tribe of Houston Jews, but we weren't religious, rarely at synagogue for services, no candles lit Friday night. Yet, yes, Sunday school for me, but I skipped classes and never got a report card. And yet, whenever Mom spoke of something coming up, whether a day or a year away, a visit to a nearby friend or move to a new neighborhood, her anticipations always ended with, "The good Lord willing and spares us." As best I could tell, the good Lord did spare us, in spite of no prayers, no devotion, not much of anything except Mom giving voice to anxiety, reminding me tomorrow was not a given, and invoking the Lord out loud might bring the only protection we could get. I didn't understand back then, actually, how necessary that protection was in Texas. It's not a friendly place. And so I'll pick one other. And this one, because unfortunately I took this advice to heart, literally. This is called Shoes and More Shoes. Shoes on Mom's closet. So I should say that early years were poverty. And one of the things that were evident as that slowly changed was my mother's accumulation of shoes. Shoes and more shoes. Shoes on Mom's closet floor were ordered like a library's neatly arranged books. They looked expectant, waiting for someone to put them on and go somewhere. Patents shined as if they'd just been bought. Colorful ribbons tied in delicate bows perched atop a pair, looking anxious for spring. Some of the shoes seemed ready for dinner parties, their lacy patterns filigreed onto soft leather uppers. None of the heels were very high. Flats showed the most wear, leather wrinkled and scuffed, a reminder that comfort was a trump card often played. Every now and then, Mom would add to this gallery, giving reasons for buying the new pair, reasons that never made sense to me. I had tennis shoes, black leathers for dress. Why would I want more? One day, Mom unboxed high heels that looked nothing like her other shoes. Sapphire blue beads arcing along the instep suede sides, rhinestones like glittering pebbles sitting a bit behind the toes. I wondered why she got them, where they might take her. She picked one up, turned it slowly, offering it for the admiration she felt it deserved, and as she reached for the other shoe, explained, "Money is no good till you spend it." A good lesson. And then I'd like to read one more, just not from this book, but one I just wrote recently, and I think, and this will be it. And this is called Listening to Mozart. I tried to listen to one of his sonatas as if I were an NPR music maven, identify its elements like a sommelier experiencing an aged Bordeaux. I picture myself talking about it with Mitsuko, the pianist, as if I could think about it as she does, but I can't. I have no path to show me where Mozart found those notes or how she coaxes them to the keys of her piano. It's my body that does the listening, offers my mind the occasional hint about what it's hearing, and my mind obediently plays its role, obediently puts aside its burden. The pretense it knows everything is worth knowing. That's worth knowing.
Start writing about colors for some reason. So a couple of years ago, I wrote about the color yellow, wrote about the color green, and this is about the color orange. And I think I did this about a month ago. Orange, the color. Orange stands alone, like a big cheese. Pungent, spicy, mellow, or sweet. A hate it or love it color. I had an orange bathing suit once. Dangly earrings, too. You're never a milquetoast in orange. Amazing how it pops. Marigolds and orange doors, jelly beans, pumpkins at Halloween. But I admit, orange can be unpalatable. In Venice, the tourists looked disgustingly orange, as if they had painted themselves in a tanning solution which defied meaning. Why would anyone want to have orange skin? Back in the day, roadside architecture dotted the byways, giant orange emporiums selling freshly squeezed until it got too expensive. No one I knew actually lived in an orange, but some of us had blaze orange shag carpet in our bedrooms. I love a blaze orange Key West sunset, how it sinks beneath the turquoise sea, glorifying itself, creating a glow that saturates every pore and crack and crevice. Even Gauguin loved unabashed, no-joke orange, a mighty blaze in grass, sky, or mountain. Did you know you can create another kind of orange blaze? Strike a match to cheesy chips and watch them burn? Trust me, you'll need this survival skill one day for the apocalypse. I get blue thinking about the future, the current color craze, cemetery gray, reminding me of colorless bobbleheads attempting to dictate what's left of my life. They would have an orange infarction and arrest the sun if they could. I think about how peaceful monks look in orange robes, or orangutans in their hairy orange capes. Sweet, those orange moments, autumn leaves drifting by my window. And then we think about orange. I wrote this poem 4 years ago, and it's very apt today. Pardon some of the language. Caveat. A bleached job can poison a woman's spirit. To the woman who still looks at life through a kitchen window, who's going to stand by her man doing things she don't understand, I urge you to go streptomaniacally virago, tell cock and ball jokes, break the hand that grabs your ass. Put it on record, I don't stand by no devil's small hand man. I need to get off my ashes, take action, and help eliminate some darksome shit. We women of the US of A, in order to form a more stable nation, must honey dip patriarchal contagion. But how can just one of me secure a more perfect union? Last I heard, I still have freedom of right action. My number 2 pencil can help trump up an electoral sweep from sea to shining, suck the cesspool dry of all the crusty Methuselahs waving their righteous swords and jingling gold coins in deep pockets. My words can mitigate, advocate, even nominate candidates who celebrate liberty and justice for everyone. And maybe, just maybe, one of me can help abolish the big, fat, stinking mess of abuse and intolerance, reclaim our nation drowning in a cockalorum of misogyny. Ooh.
Well, I'll probably read 3, but the first 2 sort of are of themselves because they're hot off the presses. And I would say probably too hot off the presses, but I think this may be a forgiving audience. And we'll just see what comes out.
first one was stimulated by a story that somebody told me, a friend told me, and it's called Pearl. A small, lustrous white ball of short-legged dog barrels toward me down the sidewalk, arrives, bounces, bounces, her collar a string of fat pearls. Not impossible from half a block away, she scented my pocket of treats for just this purpose. Her person catches up, agrees to a treat, orders Pearl, bear rug. The dog goes flat on her belly, looks up slobbering, gets the savory biscuit. At home, there's a bear rug she was trained to go lie down on and wait. A fine discipline. This is basically a show and tell. And I brought the show, okay? Everybody maybe recognizes this. Industrial accident. My first husband, who left everything in the kitchen to me, called knife slip cuts, burns, scalds, dropped objects, unintended bursts of flour, gritty sugar swaths underfoot, industrial accidents, as if cautioning my inadvertent errors. Yet even now, eons of adept cooking later, as I pressed garlic into oil and lemon juice for dressing, leaned too close to my fist and caught my nipple in a painful squeezing nip in the mechanism's metallic jaw like handles, I snapped a smiling memory, even missed that husband I divorced 40 years ago and who is now a decade dead. On a much more serious note, social faking. Often in your self-conscious youth, to avoid appearing out of a social loop, ignorant or undereducated, you pretended others' evident common knowledge, word meanings, tossed in foreign language phrases. You didn't ask for clarification or the backstory, didn't right away admit you weren't up to speed, even if you simply hadn't read that day's news. So nodded along, reflected expressions. Later in life, you saw that some glib intellectuals fake their way with practiced vocabulary of pretense, could pull partial profundities from probable facts. And you too mastered this craft, especially in cocktail party conversation. Finally, in retirement, shame evaporates as you see others glad to explain, don't find you foolish for asking. So without hesitation, you ask and ask and ask. There we go.
All these formal poems, right? So I gotta do a formal. The Shakespearean sonnet. It's a love poem for Jane called Total Solar Eclipse over Vermont, April 8th, 2024. All right. I got a feeling at 1:38 it might be too late. The 10 minutes was plenty to spare. But really for what? No more than my shadow between us, darkening your eyes, chin, arm, our gold band. The same physics as in heavenly spheres. But if we should wait the next in Greenland, would we choose to travel in 2 years? And to stay here, where we live and do love, would be long after we were gone and dust, scarcely able to cast a shadow on anyone. Never mind obscure your lips with my lips, which hurries me, though we are near the place to view, a bright field, green grass still sparse. One more. Your time? Your time? Oh, okay. Well, when what? We'll go again. We'll go again.
You know how the ladies' garden clubs always have these, come on and buy our stuff. And their stuff is, well, aggression. The sun glistens through the new rampant grasses, as yet my outside world untouched by mowing, grooming, and digging. She offered me once some anemones to enhance my space of whites, my moon garden. Oh yes, why not? So generous. To mingle, to share with friends, the irises, phlox, alyssum, the shastas. But sharing comes hard, worldwide, even in our own land. This is mine, not yours syndrome. The sweet, tiny white flowers, oh yes, not mingling, not enhancing, not joining, but creating a carpet of hegemony. Bring on the spade.
Thinking about what could come with. So this is for Georgia, and unfortunately for other places too. It's called the Meadow. When I was 10, I walked home through the meadow. It was where we went sledding, and that girl in 5th grade tipped, lay on her couch, and didn't wake up. The meadow where that mean boy said he saw a ghost, and our teacher took us to look through the fog. I thought I saw it, but it was just the wind. Each day I got home late, but no one worried. And I walked again the next day. Then I found the unimportant tree, wound tight with vines so you wouldn't see it. The unimportant tree grew leaves and a piece of fruit I'd never seen before. I thought of eating that fruit, but the tree had worked so hard. I want to think I saved that tree, but it had no chance. Bulldozers removed its roots, paved the hill, cleared the woods of ghosts. My school is locked now. Its doors are hidden by vines. Mean boys still haunt schoolrooms and hallways. And the lucky children fear only accidents. But no one walks home. The meadow doesn't exist anymore. The wind, the rain, the fog move branches, uncover trees, and seek children who can be outside, be late, and no one worries.
so I couldn't resist. Impressions of Vermont from an alien point of view. Moi, yeah. Perhaps it was the pie. Perhaps it was the pie that did it, but then it could have been the hot dogs. Here at our place, you'd never know the difference. What it definitely was, regardless, was the homebrew Uncle Reggie brought. Big glass carboys with red rubber stoppers lined up against the kitchen wall. That's what Uncle Reggie always did, revving us up every year. Every year he came to the farm to our famous family parties. Parties written up in columns in the Randolph Herald, the Vermont Standard, even the Valley News. Miss Pritz from over on the North Road wrote her column really mean, trying to embarrass us, we said. But the best news was the stuff that Betty wrote, full of dirt and giggles, on and on about how her 76-year-old sister wet her pants laughing when the pigs got loose, and we fed them whiskey so they'd fall over and we could get them back in the barn. How them pigs got loose in the first place, we'll never know. But we fed them more than a few bottles till they dropped over sideways. Then Uncle Reggie started up the front end loader and shoveled up them pigs. It was a shame one of them fell off, way up on high it fell off of. Plop into that extra muddy spot down by the pond. Caused a real stir, it did. But Uncle Reggie's a real ace on that loader. He lifted that porker right up again, lickety-split. It's squealing all the while, squealing so loud as it rode that bucket up high, all the way back to the barn, and heard that barn door slam tight shut behind.
Just sit and listen to Ina all night. So lovely. This is called Turtle Island Microfiber. The radio tells me this morning, in voices kind and concerned, there are particles of plastic in Lake Champlain, so small they can't be filtered by treatment plants. Microplastic trash, they call it. Punk rock band, my ears amuse. This plastic from fleeceware will merge with our food chain, is announced. We will eat plasticated fish from laundering our fine threaded plastic shirts. My son, visiting home from college, has my head spinning, trying to keep up with all his words for environmental and social tragedy. Apparently, we are trying to repossess ourselves of our humanity away from psychotechnology in the Anthropocene. I am glad his generation is trying to figure it out, because I want my children and theirs to know sparkling water that hosts creatures who cohabit with us and provide sustenance that is clean and pure. Water they can dip their toes into and want to plunge further. Nutritious air that lungs can consume with passion. Will that story be a memory told of an ancient dream of an island called Turtle?
Percent of knee surgeries come out good, and 30% do not. That was a very interesting thing to hear. So the doctor is now only doing hips. This is called Quixotic Spring. A perfect day, sweet unfolding spring, whispering of delights to come. Waiting, paused and pregnant, with ferns unfolding and blossoms awakening, birds on the wing, the cardinal alight, and call out their hope that winter has said good night.
This is cat time. I'm trying to figure out my cat. He's smarter than I am, and I could use advice in some areas he excels in, like afternoon naps. Mine last about 10 minutes, but his go on for hours. Chin nestled on a front leg, back and tail curling him into an enviable circle. What I admire most is his ability to stuff the past into a sack sealed so tightly he seems to have no idea how to reopen it or imagine why he would want to. And often that past happened only seconds ago. He lives in a moment that never ends, exists in the timeless entity we humans call now. Now, for me, is like a collage of moments. A fight last week with a friend is knitted into a plan to patch a bike tire tomorrow. My cat's now is fixed, like the North Star. Mine, always in flux. Days and weeks, minutes and hours, time muddled, like desperate starlings in a murmuration gone awry, skybound in a patternless swarm.
So I did a riff on Shakespeare's Sonnet 130. So what I'll do is I'll read Shakespeare's Sonnet 130 first. I've never read these out loud. So here we go. Okay. My mistress's eyes are nothing like the sun. Coral is far more red than her lips red. If snow be white, why then her breasts are dun. If hairs be wires, black wires grown on her head. I have seen roses damask red and white, but no such roses see I in her cheeks. And in some perfumes is there more delight than in the breath that from my mistress reeks. I love to hear her speak, yet well I know that music hath a far more pleasing sound. I grant I never saw a goddess go. My mistress, when she walks, treads on the ground, and yet by heaven I think my love as rare as any she belied with false compare. Oh my, oh my. So this is my Gotta Love My Wild Guy, Sonnet 130. Oh my God. Okay, here we go. My guy's eyes are cross-eyed blue, sour grapes sweeter than his citrus lips. If Elmer's glue is white, then his shirt's a dirty dish rag hue. If hair is string, his mop top needs a barber's clip. I've seen tattoos in red and blue, but no ink sequins, his mug or chest. And in Old Spice, there is more delight than the hog's breath my snuggle pig ingests. I love to hear him kvetching like a crow, but a yodel's a far more toothsome tune. I never saw Lash LaRue giddy up and go, but when Wild Bronco rides, he rides me like a pro. I swear to me he's rare, and no Romeo or Italian stallion can compare.
So I'll get an idea and then I'll start writing a poem. And I don't know whether it's he, she, you, or I. And that often, the persona often shifts as I'm writing. But I would say, even though has I, never trust the I as the person who's reading the poem. Exactly. It's called No Idea. Like a child who shuts his eyes, blanks the monster. If he can't see it, it can't see him. Long ago, I blanked the mirror, except for random detail. Shaving, parting my hair, checking collar and tie, the face's long-known particulars elided. Never especially vain, no preener or peacock, no Narcissus reflection gazing in his pool. Over time, avoidance has grown habitual, leaving how I look familiar but vague. Sometimes I catch sight of an unrecognizable face, astonished at aged skin's pits, cracks, fissures, sepia blots, seasoned winds, ruby-busted capillaries. Jerk reflexively away from this uninvited guest, blur my washed-out eyes. For years I had no idea, grinned on through. From inside out, I have the face I've always had.
So I hope you all mingle. We have some goodies and something to drink. So gather together and chat and enjoy. And thank you so much for all this wonderful poetry. And thank you, everybody who came to listen. And in November, we'll be back.